But I want to start with Holland and Germany. Obviously, big rivalry historically. Beyond that, I think there's a lot of those storylines that come out of it. And I'm not just saying this because your buddy Ronald Koeman is involved. It finished 2-2. I wanted to kind of gauge where these teams are. There were some changes to both. I thought Holland, for whatever reason, no matter what choices Koeman makes, they have talented players.
Yeah, they're good, and I think offensively, now that Memphis was not in this team, I don't know if he would be called up playing in Brazil with Corinthians or not.
Well, he thinks so because he said, the level in Brazil is much higher than in the Saudi Pro League.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think any Saudi Pro League Dutch players will make it to the national team either. So I'm not sure where his point is. But without him and Gakpo up front, with Brian Brobbey up front, they look good with the ball, and they were a threat. I thought Germany were the better team and really should have won that game, and are still in their development and where they are right now, 2 years away from the World Cup, just after the Euros. They are a better team than the Dutch, there's no doubt. But I thought they were a threat, and I like Brian Brobbey has been tipped for so many years as this next big thing, and I think his progress was slow. Wrong choices maybe of career, like in careers and clubs, etc., a bit of injuries. But when he's in that kind of form, he's so strong, so hard to defend against, so quick, and so unpredictable at times that it worked for the Dutch. So really good game. Well done for the Dutch for that performance. I still felt Germany were better.
Germany are better, even with Havertz. I like that different way of using Havertz, right? With Dennis Undav up front. And necessarily Undav and Füllkrug are unavailable are different players, so you're going to see that differently. Back to Brobbey, he was picked ahead of Joshua Zirkzee. I find it interesting because I don't share your enthusiasm around Brobbey. I think he's extremely awkward to play against because he's an unorthodox player. And Zirkzee is also an unorthodox player.
Yeah, true.
And this is where you need to have a really good coach who makes those decisions, who motivates players, who keeps people on board. And which brings me back to Ronald Koeman. I think back to the Euros, when Matthijs de Ligt played, I think he's played as many minutes as you did at the Euros.
Yeah.
Zirkzee didn't play too many more minutes. I think he came on late a couple games. In this game, de Ligt started. He certainly made 2 mistakes, at least. But to take him off at halftime in a game like this, how do you read that? Because you can say, all right, he's having a bad day, let me fix it, I have other defenders. Or he's having a tough time, he's just changed teams, let me not undermine his confidence by saying, look, you're going to be the leader for the next 10 years of this team, so let me leave you out there.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't know, it's the Casemiro, Ten Hag template, if you want, from the other day in the Manchester derby.
Yeah, sorry, big difference.
Casemiro's
clock at Manchester United is ticking.
True.
So
true.
It's easier to do that, to make a statement. His
absolutely.
Replacement's coming in. De Ligt, for better or worse, De Ligt will be part of this Dutch national team for the next decade.
I just think that Koeman never liked De Ligt. That's why he didn't play at the Euros, and I think he started him there. He had other options. Maybe he just wanted to see him in a top game like this, and then was disappointed, like a lot of us, by halftime of how poor he was. And maybe he was just not at the level in that game, or maybe Koeman thinks that he's not at the level, full stop. And then might not play. Next month we have the return fixture in Germany this time, and I can guarantee you that De Ligt is not going to start unless there's loads of injuries to De Vrij. Ike is a different one, or even a Van Eyck who replaced him and did better than him.
One of the things that strikes me about this, and I will always say this, is when we see, I think back to my time with Jose Mourinho, when he told me, he said, you want to get a reaction. If I get a reaction from John Terry by shouting at him and calling him a loser who let down the team, he's going to get angry and he's going to perform more. If I call William Gallas a loser who let down the team, I'm going to lose him forever. So you have to have faith in Ronald Koeman and the Dutch guy that he's pushing the right buttons with De Ligt to get a positive reaction. And I think United fans will be hoping that Koeman got this one right. All right, De Ligt was not the only defender to have a bad game. Jonathan Tah really struggled for Germany and also came off at the half, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I just want to check this out there because obviously last season Bayer Leverkusen had that incredible season. Jonathan Tah was a big part of it. There's a lot of analytics, Bundesliga fetishists, some of whom we work with, who just adore Jonathan Tah.
Yeah.
And in the summer, there was a lot of talk of him going to Bayern Munich. He only has a year left on his contract and whatever. I'm wondering, I don't think this summer helped him. And I don't think maybe being a free agent at the end of the season is helping him either. And I'm wondering, too, if some of the defensive moves that Bayer Leverkusen made over the summer were with a view that they're not going to re-up Jonathan Tah.
Yeah, maybe. And also, this was you can excel in a back three and find it very difficult in a back four. And we've said it many, many times before with the Thiago Silva, different because he's much older than Jonathan Tah. But a back three, by definition, especially if you're in the middle of the three, then it's easier for you to defend, and you've got two guys to protect, than a back four where it's just you and another centre back against one or two forwards where things go much quicker and everything. And for me, that game where he was, and again, Brobbey, it's not that I'm a fan of Brobbey, but in this game, what the Dutch wanted to use Brobbey for worked perfectly. They wanted to beat the press by playing long on him, and because he's such a unit, strong and quick, it was hard for Schlotterbeck, who got yellow carded quite early, and Tah to defend on him, and that worked perfectly. So Rudiger is the starter with Schlotterbeck, and I think Tah and Anton are on the bench. They're the two other options. They are good players, but they're not at the level of a Rudiger, for example. And a game like this against Brobbey in this kind of tactical plan from the Netherlands, Rudiger would have been obviously much better than Jonathan Tah, who doesn't really like that kind of forwards against him.
I wonder whether this should be, when I look at Germany again with a view to 2026, and look, this is true, I think, of every national team, right? We always say this: you can't just buy players to fill positions. Yeah. But when I look at this, I think there's definitely still an issue at center forward. Kai Havertz, notwithstanding whatever you want to build around him. I like how he was used in this game, but equally,
that
I
could
also
be long term, maybe.
But he's not going to be playing that for Arsenal, presumably.
No, but for Germany.
But I wouldn't want somebody to go and change it. I don't know who else is coming through that can be a longer-term center forward. At the back, I wonder about these center halves, because Anton is not that young. I think he's 27, something like that. And he is what he is. Rudiger, I think when the World Cup rolls around, will be 34, kind of just on the cusp. Tah, we've covered. Yeah. Schlotterbeck, he needs to jump up several orders of magnitude. Potentially a left back issue. I know they're stacked in other positions, and we'll get to that. But I always find it fascinating. Here you have, the doyen of European football, 80 million people, we know better, blah, 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 tradition, yada, yada, yada. And the starting 11 is still so uneven, which I find interesting.
Yeah, no, really. And I think they, obviously the firepower they've got up front, wherever Havertz plays, is incredible and huge, but they've got issue to sort out, which they won't sort out by 2026 anyway. Yeah, Anton might progress because he's going to play in the Champions League, for example, and good for him. I don't think he's going to become a world-class defender between now and the World Cup in 2 years' time, for example. So they will have to do with those issues. But every team you always have a position, especially for a national team, one or two, sometimes three, sometimes even more, where there's less, the pool of talent in that certain position is not as strong as others.
I think the difference is that other countries like that, I'm thinking of Spain and France, and I know this is a very high bar, right? And we can obviously see how England in certain positions have, the cupboard's pretty bare. But I feel like either they're much deeper across the board, or when somebody else comes in, I was skeptical about Spain's defense, right? Ahead of the Euros. And it worked out. It's just not just Lenormand and Laporte, but then Vivian plays. He gets it done, and so on. I just think this is something to track.
Yeah, definitely.
And worth remembering.
Definitely.
Musiala and Wirtz, Musiala in particular, Nagelsmann made the point that, they've learned that there's areas of the pitch where you can't dribble.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a nice way to sum this up.
Yeah, because we saw them obviously 4 days before being outstanding, both of them, in a big win against the Bosnia side, as we've explained at the time in Monday's show. Not very good, okay, but they were still outstanding. This was a much tougher game, and in that game, Jamal Musiala was just not at the level that you would expect him to be, really, considering his talent and the form that he's had. So it's very interesting. And there's things that just show. And I'm sure the Dutch had a bit of a plan against him anyway, because they were doubling up on him, for example, but no dribbling. No successful dribble at all in the game, which for somebody who's one of the best dribblers, because the ball is glued to his foot, is very interesting. He had 6 shots, all of them blocked. Literally 6 shots, all blocked. So it's either he took them in the wrong position or took them where he should not have taken the shot, because he was clearly not. If your shot gets blocked, it's not the right option, because a shot by definition, you should have a clear aim at the goal and see of the goal, and if you've got players in front of you that block your ball in your shot, it's just not good. Good because it shows he still has a lot of things to improve. As long as one of Musiala and Wirtz is on great form, like in this game, because Wirtz I thought was outstanding, it's good. I think if both of them are on their best form in the same game, then the opposition is in big trouble because they're unstoppable. As long as they've got one of the two shining, it's fine. But in that game, Musiala was disappointing.
Final point. You have not called Ronald Koeman the Dutch guy in this segment. Is it because you want to give him a little bit of love? Can we give him a little bit of credit here?
You know what I love? I love the Timber brothers coming on together at halftime, which must be something very special in a life. Whatever, any families really would, I think, feel something very special if that was the case, and well done to them. And what I like about the Dutch guy, like I said about Spalletti on Monday, I think, and I didn't say about Deschamps, and I wish he'd done it as well, and Nagelsmann to some extent with moving Havertz into a different position, is you can learn a lot from a competition like the Euros. And for De La Fuente and Spain, it's easy, you do the same because you're the champions. But for the others who didn't go all the way like Spain, England changed manager, so it's head coach, so it's different. But Spalletti changed things going to back three. Nagelsmann changed things with Havertz. Deschamps didn't change anything because he's Deschamps and he's so annoying. But the Dutch guy changed as well, and I like that. And he was rewarded in a way in a game that they dug deep to get that draw. And on another day they could have lost, but I think there was a lot of promising things from the Dutch in that game against Germany.
All right, enough Koeman. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gab.
Brazil lose to Paraguay 1-0, and Jules, they've lost 4 of their 8 qualifiers. It's a good thing they've expanded the World Cup.
Yeah, it is, Gab. You're right. Now the top 6 qualify. They're currently in 5th place with 10 points. That's just 10 points in 8 games. Venezuela are level with them in 6th place. Then you've got Paraguay, Bolivia, 7th and 8th with 9 points. So just 1 point behind. 7th get you a playoff spot. 8th gets you nothing. You watch the World Cup at home. Right now it's worrying because they have been really, really bad. They won against Ecuador, but we said they didn't probably deserve to win that.
Deflected shot from Rodrigo.
Paraguay, they were terrible collectively. And
some love for Diego Gomez, maybe?
Yeah, we mentioned him when he signed for Brighton.
You were so excited. You're like, oh my God, Diego Gomez, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's Messi.
We said it's a great signing for Brighton. And for Brazil, I guess the only positive really is that in next month international break, they will play Chile and Peru, who are the 2 teams at the bottom of the qualifier table, if you want. So if you don't win then you don't deserve to be at the World Cup anyway.
Dorival's out.
Oh, well, yeah. He's already, I think, under pressure. And Dorival Jr., as we mentioned, the head coach, played the front three of Rodrigo, Endrick, and Vinicius Jr., but the Real Madrid trio didn't really work out.
Yeah, and I don't get this. I don't understand why you need to start. Like, Endrick wasn't... I mean, okay, of the 3... neither was particularly good.
No.
Vinicius, I thought, was particularly bad.
Vinicius, has 5 goals in 33 caps. Only 5 goals for Brazil.
But you know what bugs me, and I saw this in the previous Ecuador game too, right? Okay, I like it that you want to entertain and whatever, but we saw Vinicius and your friend the Packet, these little flicks, like showboating when there's nobody near them. I don't want to see that. Like, I mean, I enjoy it, but how about you win the 3 point? How about you look at the table and you realize where you are and you put in a convincing performance also to help take off your coach, Dorival Jr. And we can say, look, he's a fool because he's got all this talent. It doesn't work. But first of all, I don't know. I'm not saying Endrick, it was the pressure that got to Endrick. But you have João Pedro. Like, you have other options up front. Yeah. You don't need
Pedro
to play.
Came on at halftime for Endrick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But why did Endrick start this game? Was it because, like, it's a big deal? Like, oh, look. I don't follow that. And I think the other big thing is Rodrigo on the right, Vinicius on the left, whatever, worked last season because they had Toni Kroos passing them the ball and because they have a high-energy midfield. This midfield with Bruno Guimaraes and André, I'm not saying they're bad players, but it's really chaotic and there's no pattern of play.
Yeah.
Harry Kane scores twice as England beat Finland 2-0. Jules, 68 goals and 100 caps for the Bayern center forward. He got a little gold cap, which I can't tell if it looks cheesy or like.
No, it's lovely, and he got his gold boots as well from his boot supplier that we were not going to say the name. And
why not? Is it one of the ones I've heard of?
Yeah, it's Skechers.
Skechers.
Yeah. Skechers.
Okay, that's good. Why can we not say the name?
I didn't think you wanted me to endorse their football boots.
I don't know. But
I think a lot of people don't even know that. The
exactly. Let's stick out. Skechers relatively the little guy compared to Puma and Adidas and all these other Nike, right?
Frank Leboeuf is also the.
All right, let's show some love for them. There you go.
Yeah.
The Skechers boots are what make Harry Kane good. Nothing else. Yeah. Nothing to do with his work ethic or his talent or whatever.
But you kind of knew that he would be the star. It was his night, really. 100th cap, very special achievement. The 10th player in England history to reach at least 100 caps. 67th and 68 goals against a bad team, but yeah, I thought it was good from him, decent from England. Let's just put it that way.
I thought England battered them. They could have scored 4 or 5.
Yeah, the first half I was not too keen. The first half I thought was a bit sloppy at times. Second half, but much better, and they scored those 2 goals. So well done, Harry Kane. It's a massive, massive achievement. Luciano Spalletti changes up the forwards, and Italy rolled to a 2-1 win against Israel. Gab, they're still top of the Nations League table.
Yeah, it was an away victory, although Israel technically away as well. The stadium looked like empty. I think Italy played well as the right approach. Again, when you start rotating forwards and you see that, in this game you're going with Moise Kean, who scored as many goals as you did in Serie A last season, and with Jack Raspadori in behind, who's probably not going to be a starter this season for Napoli. And when your goal scorer is Davide Frattesi, who played more games for Italy in the last year than he had starts for Inter, it is what it is, but the mentality is the right one, and why not? Roll on. Top of the league. Arsenal will have to wear their away shirt against Spurs in the North London derby. Jules, apparently it's too white, despite the fact that it's not white.
There's a lot of red on it still. Really not enough red, too much white. So the Premier League fears a colour clash for the referee, I guess, for the
Can I say something?
For the players.
Can I say something? All right. Your game against Spurs is one of the biggest games of the year. There's a history to North London derby. When you go and you pay your kit designer to do this, you might say, hey, come up with whatever designs you want, we'll pick. Why don't you check with the Premier League and clear it that at least in this, the biggest game of the year, we can pay our colors. Look, it's an away game, fine, away kit. I don't like seeing the away kit. I want to see as little. No, I want to see as little of it as possible, right?
I mean, I guess the away kit is to be worn away from home when you play a team.
Right. So when Liverpool play Everton, why don't they both?
No, but we've seen that happen too. So
silly.
I know.
Whatever.
I think it's a bit harsh though to call it too white.
No, it's stupid.
Gab, some people believe Real Madrid always get their way. Well, they don't, because somebody called Andy Mangan, he's proof of this.
So this would have been a really good story, and there's a twist. Andy Mangan is an assistant coach at Stockport.
Yeah.
He's a former
doing really well.
Former professional football in the lower leagues. He did his coaching badges with David Ancelotti, who is Carleto's son, and part of the coaching staff at Real Madrid. Real Madrid wanted to offer him a job.
Yeah, in the staff.
However, because of Brexit, he now needs a work permit to get a job with Real Madrid. And I guess the Spanish authorities did not grant him that work permit.
Yeah.
So he's stuck in England. Fair enough. What I find interesting is what I wondered. I'm purely going to speculate here. Mm-hmm. Andy Mangan, years in 2009, I think, he was banned for match fixing. I mean, he was open about this, banned for 5 months by the FA. I wonder if that played into it. And I find it curious that in a lot of the reporting, people kind of left that little detail out.
Yeah.
You know, no, like, does it become like a black mark against you where you can't get a work visa in the future? I don't know, right? But I think he's going to bounce back if he is talented. We wish him all the best. By the way, he's been very open, you know, after his punishment, in advocating, talking about what happened, and advocating against it and the temptations. So I have max respect for him. I have no issue if you commit a crime or something like this, which is a crime, and then you admit it, you talk about it, you take ownership of it. Then I'm good with it. However, I wonder if this is part of it. I mean, my understanding is, without Brexit, he'd be at Real Madrid now. Yeah. So works both ways.
That's a shame.
All right, Jules, we're not done because we have more quick hits.
Yes.
France bounced back nicely with a 2-0 win over Belgium as Ousmane Dembele scores a worldie.
Yeah.
Jules, Deschamps was always going to rotate. We saw Konate, Griezmann, and Mbappe start on the bench.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Were you
convinced? Eight changes in total from the starting 11, which is a lot. Only Maignan, Saliba, and Kante stayed.
Which is really unfair to Kante at his age and with a long flight back to Saudi.
And to be fair, he was captain, and he was better than he was in the first game against Italy, where everybody played badly. We said defensively, this was much better. Upamecano, Saliba, centre-back. Against Openda, we saw very good Jules Koundé, who I think was missed against Italy, playing really well against Jeremy Doku again. And this time France offensively used the ball better
without Mbappe.
Without Mbappe, I was going to say exactly. I don't know if there's a deeper problem here. It's 2 goals in 12 now for Kylian. He came on in the second half. This looked disinterested at training, privately, on the pitch, what we saw, what we can hear, what people are telling us. Not a good international break for him. I don't know if it's just that he didn't fancy it, he was more focused on Real Madrid. I don't know the problem. What is the problem? But there's definitely a problem.
Maybe he's nervous that he won't get his 55 million euros.
Maybe there's a bit of that. Maybe, I don't know. And also Kevin De Bruyne really not happy at the end after the Belgian performance and seeming to say like this, he could be thinking about maybe retiring from international
suggesting
football.
He might retire, yeah.
Manchester United released their accounts for the past year, and they showed record revenue of £661.8 million, which is a lot of revenue, but also losses of £113 million, which is a lot of losses too, Gab. Do they have PSR concern and could they be in trouble?
So here's a reminder. They lost £113 million. They lost £28.7 million last year, and they lost £115.5 million the year before. Now, you may remember that's about $250 million in losses over 3 years.
Yeah, that's a lot.
The maximum losses allowed, obviously, as you know, is $105 million, but there's a lot of stuff that you can discount from it. So that number's not really relevant from a PSR perspective. I do think they have to be more disciplined. 47.8 million of the losses were part of the structural review of the club. That includes a payoff to Richard Arnold, who of course was CEO for a year, if that, for 5.5 million.
Nice.
He did well. To be fair, he was there for a bunch of years before that.
Before he was very successful there.
United say they're going to save they're going to save up to 90 million pounds
for all the people that they
over
got
2 years. The efficiencies, I'm always a little skeptical when people say up to, like, what if you say up to 90 million? You'd say up to 200 million, it would be the same thing. I do think, they're going to have to be a little bit disciplined going forward. Obviously, they made a big investment in the squad. I don't think they necessarily want to change as many players next year. Hopefully, you're hoping they got it right and players grow.
Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo goes on Rio Ferdinand's podcast and says he still loves Manchester United. But he also had some mean things to say about Erik ten Hag. It's a shock.
Yeah, I mean, you knew this was going to come up because obviously he doesn't like him. They didn't work well
I think
together.
he likes it more than he likes Ralph Rangnick.
Maybe. And something that we also mentioned, that we also picked up on in a way, is the communication of Ten Hag. Some of the things that he says in press conferences, in interviews, and what Cristiano said was like, Erik Ten Hag and a Manchester United manager, whoever that is, cannot say that we don't compete for the league. He should always be saying that we're going to try to be there, compete with the best. It's an easy slide tackle. It's an easy dig at Ten Hag. Does Cristiano need it? I don't know, but he clearly has still a lot of things to say. Even 2 years after leaving the club?
Yeah, look, 2 years after leaving the club, but obviously spent time there as a youngster as well, and then came back. like Ten Hag's messaging, I don't think is great. I think it's a little bit all over the place.
Completely.
But ultimately, that's not what he's going to be judged on.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's the result he gets or doesn't get, and what he can build.
Colombia defeat Argentina 2-1 on Tuesday. And God, is something wrong with the world champions, or were Colombia really good?
Okay, Lionel Messi wasn't there.
No, again.
Julian Alvarez was there and was not good. And that goal he scored, it felt like a weird one-off.
Yeah.
I think mostly Colombia are really, really good. Great. This is a high-energy team.
Yeah.
It's an intelligent team. And you have that quality in James set pieces.
Again,
he puts the ball wherever he wants. I mean, the opener.
Yeah, Mosquera.
Boom, he just puts it there. Mosquera, by the way, is a player and a half as well.
Wolves Mosquera.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy.
So I don't think it's a tragedy. Argentina don't lose very often after their long streak. Of course, they had that defeat to Uruguay, so they've kind of moved past that. They'll be okay. We'll see where they are when Messi returns. At this point, you're thinking 26 for Argentina, right? So you're going to qualify. Yeah. And then you see where Messi is in 26. You see if he wants to be a part of it. You see if he can be. I think in some ways Scaloni has to work on a plan B while seeing if Messi is still plan A. Jules, we talked about it on Monday.
Yeah.
And obviously Arsenal said, oh, wait, we forgot to extend Mikel Arteta's contract. Silly us.
They listened to you. They listened to you when you said, ¿Qué pasa? What's going on here?
And what do we do just today, Monday, as we record this? They extend his contract for another 2 years. It's a 3-year deal. So I guess they listen.
They listen. We're Thursday today, but they listen to you on Monday. I know that's what you meant to say. Exactly. Mikel Arteta extending his contract for 2 more years, so a whole 3 years from now on, if you want. Which, as we said, it was never really in doubt. It was just about when they would announce it. So, well done. He's done an amazing job, really, since he took over 5 years ago, but especially in the last 2.5 years where things have really changed the squad, it changed the mentality, it changed pretty much everything. So let's hope that trophies now and titles are also going to come, because with all that progression and all the changes that have been made positively at the club, you want all of this to be rewarded with trophies now. And
I think in this season, if Arsenal do hit a bumpy spell, I think it also gives him some more authority. Mm-hmm. I think it banishes the idea with Pep's contract expiring should Pep leave, that thing which can be destabilizing. Yeah. It can be destabilizing to the players and so on.
Absolutely.
So, well done.
Christian Pulisic comes off the bench to score as the United States draw 1-1 with New Zealand. Gab, with Mauricio Pochettino finally confirmed as the new US head coach. What would he have thought watching that game?
I think he would. Man, we got work to do.
New Zealand.
It's not like they were bad. It's funny because I wanted to Google a match report I watched the highlights and I wanted some content, and I start reading it and they talk, and the whole match report is about how the U.S. so convincing, dominating New Zealand, and then I realize I'm reading the report on the U.S. Soccer Federation website. So yeah, of course, it's New Zealand.
I know.
These guys had to fly halfway around the world to come and play you. We saw Chris Wood come on. I mean, realistically. And I know there were players missing and they made changes and they created chances. That's what you want to see. But if you're Pochettino and you're assessing what, for large parts was maybe U.S. second string team, except for Matt Turner, is to play all the time because he's not going to play club level.
Yeah.
You're looking and saying, all right, who can I build on? He's got a lot of work to do, Pochettino.
Yeah,
and I think he realizes this. You mentioned, by the way, finally official. Thank you.
Yeah.
Erling Haaland grabs a late winner for Norway against Austria in their 2-1 win. Jules, good news for the big man after his horror show the other day.
Yeah.
Bad news for Martin Odegaard and Arsenal ahead of the North London derby, and I think they have a City game coming up as well.
Yeah, they're playing 3 away games in a row now. Tottenham away, Atalanta away in the Champions League, and then Manchester City away.
A lot of work for those away shirts.
Yeah. And I don't know how many of those games Martin Odegaard is going to miss. I think certainly Sunday. We will hear from Mikel Arteta tomorrow in his press conference on Friday. So we don't really have the latest on Odegaard's fitness and that ankle that turned in that game against Austria. Sprained it. I don't know how serious it is really. It could be serious. It could be maybe hopefully not so serious for Arsenal. But no Rice and very likely no Odegaard for the game on Sunday.
All right, so let's project ahead. What's the midfield?
I think Havertz is going to drop deeper. You'll have Jorginho, Partey, Havertz.
Jorginho, who I don't think has played in a
Not yet,
long time.
Not this
Marino,
season.
obviously, not a factor.
Marino out as well, yeah. So you've got young Ethan Nwaneri, for example, who's very, very talented, but maybe still a little bit too young for a game of this caliber and from the start.
And up front,
I guess Raheem Sterling is in contention. I don't think they will start him straight away for a game like this. But yeah, you could have Saka, Trossard, Martinelli, for example, up front. Chelsea are in talks to move out of Stamford Bridge and build a new stadium a few blocks away in Earls Court, not far from where you live, Gab. So they could be your neighbours.
they could be my neighbors. I don't think this is going to happen for several reasons. And I think this is more kind of smoke and mirrors, and I wonder to what degree it's linked with issues with the ownership. First of all, the Chelsea pitch owners have to approve this. These are fans who, many years ago, without getting into the details, they essentially bought the freehold.
Yeah.
So they may approve it because it's nearby, but it's a massive construction project. It's in an area where the land is very, very valuable, and I think there's a lot of other developers that they'd be competing with. Sure, you want to do your due diligence and talk to people? Fine. But I don't think this is going to happen. Back to Kylian Mbappe. L'Equipe report that he was much closer to joining Liverpool a couple years ago than we thought. Jules, what sort of alternate universe is this?
I don't know. A lot of people denying this report completely.
Right.
Even in L'Equipe's
Give us the
article.
context about where Mbappe was, what was going on at the time.
So this... but even in the article from L'Equipe, they don't seem too sure. And the two guys who wrote the article, who I know really, really well, are very good, very well informed, very good journalists. But basically, once he had extended the deal in Paris when he was on the verge of being a free agent 2 years ago, then only a few weeks later, he was not happy with the transfer policy of the club, what the club were doing. So he said he wanted to leave. And
so this is the summer where Real Madrid made that 180 million bid at the end, which they knew was going to get turned down.
Yeah, and PSG were not going to sell to them because they didn't want to. But then apparently, the Mbappe camp came with an offer from Liverpool on the same value, 180 million or up to 200 million euros for the transfer of Mbappe. And Mbappe was ready to go to Liverpool. PSG saying like this never happened. They never got an offer from Liverpool, nothing like that. So I don't know where really the truth is. I'm not even sure if at the time Liverpool could afford to. So just 2 years ago, Liverpool could offer 200 million for Kylian Mbappe, plus obviously the wages of, I would say, around what he would be on now, so 30 million a year.
Okay, so you'd be talking about nearly twice what Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk make.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Salah and Mbappe front line.
Oh my
Can
God.
you imagine?
I would love it. And Liverpool really was the only English club that it's the one that he likes, the one that he would have joined was really this one more than any other. He loves Liverpool, the culture, he loves Jurgen Klopp, he loves the history of the club, the heritage.
But he still would want 30 million to pay for them.
Yeah, true. This is nothing comes for free. But yeah, I would have loved it to happen. But again, a lot of people are saying that never really was even close.
Let's game plan this. And I'm working back because you were talking 2 summers ago, right? So instead of spending money on Darwin Núñez, presumably he would have never shown up. I mean, could Liverpool have put something together to do that?
Yeah.
And also, but 2 years ago, that would have also been the summer that Mohamed Salah, remember, he
extended his contract.
He extended his contract, right?
Yeah.
So the savings on Salah, you don't sign Darwin Núñez.
But Kylian is a 350 million overall 5-year deal at 30 million a year plus the 200 million.
Right, but I'm saying is, I'm guessing they wouldn't have extended Salah, right? So then you've got half of Kylian's wages paid there, and they don't sign Darwin Núñez. So then you have a third of the fee there.
True.
Maybe you get some other bits and bobs here and there. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah,
right? It's a talking point.
Yeah. Barcelona sporting director Deco says that it's better not to buy players if you have quality at home. It's obvious, but he's right.
Yeah, and I think Deco, if he could time travel back to the day of the big levers. And Laporta maybe spoken up a little more forcefully about that. Maybe Barcelona would be in a different boat. We'll never know. And some Barcelona fans get really angry when they point this out and say, no, we had to do it so we could keep growing the club commercially. He doesn't have a foreign government or a wealthy sheikh. I'm like, Yeah, but the kids are really good, and there's a lot of value there in the kids. And, rather than these monster contracts and all this heavy spending on the, and it's not just that. It's even like the little, like the Kessie and I'm not saying these guys are bad players, and Marcos Alonso and Bay are in, right?
Yeah.
As well as the big Lewandowski and Rafinha. Was there another way? Maybe. I don't know.
He also explained why they didn't go for Nico Williams, and then they went for Dani Olmo instead, saying that already had all those wingers. Dani Olmo offers something different, which is again understandable.
Yeah, although you could also, and I thought, look, there was a logical explanation. And by the way, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. Every time a sporting director speaks out and explains a club's rationale, even if we disagree with your thinking,
absolutely,
we will always get plaudits for us because it's transparency.
Yeah.
Paul Pogba's brother, Matthijs, will stand trial along with 5 others accused of trying to extort 13 million from the former Juve and Manchester United midfielder, who, of course, right now is still suspended.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. This story remains surreal. Just walk us through it again.
Yeah, again, that one night, I think 3 years ago maybe, where Paul Pogba met some of his best friends who he grew up with, who took him to a flat in the Paris suburbs where they sequestration, do you say? No, when you keep somebody... Yeah, and when you keep somebody in a place where he can't leave.
Yeah, they basically kidnapped him. They held him there.
And kept him in there and threatened with guns to basically harm him and his family.
These are his friends. I wonder what his enemies do.
Yeah, I know. If he didn't pay the 13 million euros, 1-3, considering he'd already had given them a lot of money through his career, they were his best friend. They were, again, the friends that he considered them as family. But now they took this to another level. So he didn't give any of the money. I think he paid 100,000 euros that night. And then went to see the police. And then this is the continuity of the investigation. Now we will have a trial. I think it's good for Paul for his own closure to be able that there's a trial as difficult as it will be because his own brother is involved plus those childhood friends. But
he has another brother, right, who looks a lot like him.
So the other brother is the twin of Matthijs. Yeah,
that's why. So you should have a spare.
You can have
It's got to be awful. It's got to be awful. It's your blood. It's your family. It's your friends betraying you. I might also add, by the way, not that it's relevant, these guys are really, really stupid because if 13 million euros moves from Paul Pogba's account to a bunch of individuals and so on, you don't think the tax auditors are up Pogba's backside every single day and have been ever since he signed his first contract? There's no way you're getting away with this, even if you could.
No, but as long as they pay the taxes on the 13 million euros, I think.
Wait, no, but you have to explain why you're giving them money.
Yeah,
because otherwise you could be avoiding taxes, right? You say, oh, what? They're extorting it.
I know.
Come on.
I know. It's a mad story. It's John Texter. Gab, did he really say that being asked if you want to own Everton is like being asked if you want to become the US President of the United States? Did he really say that?
He did because I saw him on video. It could have been an AI John Texter.
No, it was his press conference, and then he had a press conference at Lyon, and then he did an interview with a few broadcasters, including one in the UK.
Are you sure it's not some AI virtual? Because he's very big in that technology, right? FaceBank, the ABBA show and stuff with the fake. Yeah, look, I understand what you want to say, right? Oh, it's a massive job, and you're honored to do it. Needless to say. There's a lot of differences because you can be asked to run for president, but then you have to win the votes, and with Everton, you got to come up with the money.
Yeah.
Look, he's walking. This looks like he's walking into a viper's nest. A lot of the stuff beyond his control. The Athletic, according to Alisher Usmanov, who is not and has never been the actual owner of Everton, and it's definitely not his money, is suing Farhad Mashiri, who is the man who owns Everton. Officially. All of it with his own money. That's obviously something that's going to hold things up in a big way. Texter apparently wants to float Eagle Investment, which is sort of his umbrella organization, which includes his other clubs, Botafogo, Lyon, Molenbeek, and so on. Again, he wants to float it on the stock exchange. Are you going to float? I don't see the value in that when all these clubs lose money and they're unlikely to be worth much more. I mean, this thing with, there's a reason why football clubs, for the most part, are not on the stock exchange. There's a very obvious reasons, with the notable exceptions that we all know about. November 30 is the deadline. And it's really funny. He says that originally he had 14 buyers lined up for a share. Now there are 2. So, and he says, buy out his shares, which I think he has to sell his shares in Crystal Palace so that he can buy out the club. You're not allowed to have a major shareholder in 2 clubs. I think also he probably needs the money from there to be able to do that because he doesn't want to borrow more money. But he says, there's still the possibility that Blitzer and Harris, who are obviously 2 of the shareholders in Palace, are going to buy my shares because he says they love the club as much as I do, which is kind of backhanded because you love the club so much that you're shares to go and buy everything.
Another one.
I don't know. It's Texter time, man.
Yeah.
And look, I genuinely thought that this would be our John Texter moment of the show. But then I saw him on Twitter, and I invite everybody to go and see this ultimate deer in headlights moment. I genuinely felt bad for him. He's giving a press conference with Olympique Lyonnais.
Yeah.
And he's talking about numbers because the DNCG is looking at the spending and whatever. And then what happens?
And then he basically said, we bought for 145 million euros of players.
Right.
Okay, no
so
problem.
you spent 145 million.
And we sold for 40 million.
Right.
Which means the difference between the 145 we spent and the 40 million that we received is 95 million, he says.
Yeah.
Which 145 minus 40 is 105. As we can, my youngest child, who's 7, could work out herself. And John Textor, who's, I suspect, a smart guy, right? Who've made that money. He must be good in math.
It's not to float your umbrella company and
you can't count. Then he got even worse because he said 95, then 80, then 115, then it was just an absolute mess.
So 80 apparently was his budget. That was what they were doing.
So
he says that he's like, guys, it's not like we've gone over the budget by 100 million. We've only gone over the budget by a few million. I'm like, well, no, because if we do your math properly, we're going to spend 80. You spend 105. You went over budget by like 30%.
Yeah.
I mean, most businesses, when you go over budget by that much, that's not good.
No.
Right? I don't know if he's having a tough time. I don't know if he's helping people, if he's in a difficult part. I don't know if he has bad people helping him who try to make him look bad. I don't know if anybody advises him on his media.
I don't know.
But
there was a guy next to him that we could during the press conference, but he kept showing him the paper, and then he said, "Hang on, I think I got that wrong. I think this is wrong." Yeah, JT, this is wrong. Clearly, 145 minus 40 is not 95.
Maybe he's too busy suing the guy in Brazil to go over his
or
math,
learning Brazilian or skateboarding.
Like JT, you have an open invitation to come
please,
see us.
Please come and see us. Or
we'll go see us and eat some
exactly.
very nice food in Lyon.
Yeah, very nice. Mark the date in your calendar, Gab, because the Fenerbahce Galatasaray derby is on September 21st, so very, very soon. And Jose Mourinho has something to say about Victor Osimhen, who's against him for Galatasaray.
Exactly. Obviously, Mourinho is the king of Fenerbahce. Now Osimhen is the king of Galatasaray. In terms of box office, your 2 biggest guys.
This is the best.
So it's inevitable that they're going to be asked, right? So he says, like, I don't have a problem with him. We have a very good relationship. And then Mourinho says, every time I play against him, I have to talk to him because I don't like the way he behaves. He dives too much. So this is classic playbook 101. Before the game, you say, careful, that guy is a diver. He's a diver. It plants a seed, or you're trying to plant the seed in the head of the referee. I don't think this stuff works anymore. I think it worked 20 years ago. I think in this day and age, if you've ever been around professional referees, I think they tune all this stuff out. Most of them. Some may be good referees, some may be bad referees. But it obviously becomes an issue in the media, right? So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to have, is Osimhen a diver? Is he a diver? Blah, blah, blah. Me, personally, when I think of people who cheat to win penalties, Osimhen would not be the first guy who comes to mind.
Yeah.
But, hey, look, there you go. Jose, you're doing what you need to do to get an edge. That's fine. Respect. David Pleat has left Tottenham after many, many years as, I don't even know what his at the end, advisor or whatever.
Scout, advisor.
But he made the point that ultimately Tottenham preferred data over his instincts. And Joe, this is a classic case of
It
analytics
is
versus
it
the
is.
eye test.
Yeah, it is absolutely. David Pleat obviously has been in the game for a very, very long time, knows football so well, has a lot of contact and network, but very much old school. I go to a lot of games, lower leagues, all around Europe. I travel to be there in the stadium to watch whatever level it is, to see by my own eyes. And I could guarantee you that David Pleat has never heard of, never looked at expected goals or expected assists, any sort of data like that. And right now the club is, I think, keener on data analysis than eye analysis. And I can understand his disappointment, but I can also understand why Spurs are moving away a little bit from the eye test. Not they still watch tapes, and they're not just on a piece of paper where he says that Lucas Bergvall has had that many involvement in goals and that many dribbling and those high intensity runs and things like that. They also watch him play. It's just that David Pleat can only do one side of the job, and now I believe Spurs want people who can do both sides, the eye test and the data analysis.
I think it also has to do with the fact that David Pleat, I can say this nicely, is really, really old.
I think
there's
so.
also that factor. He's been there a long time.
Yeah.
He even recently, Dele Alli, back when he was really good, David Pleat is often credited.
Yeah.
He and whoever was coaching the under-21s for Spurs at the time. Would data have found him? I don't know. I wait to hear from the data nerds just saying, well, actually, in Dele Alli's ball progression at, where was he? Or
MK
wherever.
Dons.
MK Dons was, sure, whatever. But like you said, I think the best situations is when you've got a blend of the two. The difficulty is how do you weight one versus the other?
Yeah.
Because you go too far on the analytics end, people will say, Naby Keita.
Yeah, true.
But it's the best analytics in the world. It didn't quite work out.
Fiorentina striker Albert Gudmundsson is on trial this week in his native Iceland of sexual misconduct before flying back to Italy and possibly facing Atalanta at the weekends. Are you okay with this?
So, in this case, as it was reported, he faced the charges. Then the charges were dropped. And then now there's charges again. I think the Italian media is slightly trivializing this. I mean, I have no idea what happens. You're obviously innocent until he obviously says he's entirely innocent and he can prove it. Probably better than to have your day in court where you can win your case rather than have it dropped. Because obviously when that happens, as we know, Mason Greenwood, things tend to stick on you over the air.
Yeah.
So am I okay with him being available for selection? Yeah, as far as I know. I don't think he's been tarred. And again, given the circumstances, if he's comfortable and they're comfortable, fine. Premier League panel has come out in support of Graham Kavanagh's decision to send off Declan Rice in the Brighton match earlier this season. This is the one where he nudged the ball away.
Yeah.
Are you okay with it?
I just think that they confirmed again that the referee went and applied the law and the rule that common sense, if you want, if you're not happy with the second yellow that Rice got in that game, doesn't prevail in an incident like this. It's just the letter of the law. That's what it did. So all the explanation makes sense. That's what we said on the show after. Rice should have known better. Yeah, there's a little, it hardly touches the ball, but it's enough to slow the game down. Veltman plays it well. All of that. That's just what they confirm. I'm not really sure we needed that to give more legs to this story. Everybody was over it already.
I would like them to explain why Veltman wasn't sent off. Because you know what? You may be entitled to take your free kick even if he's standing in front of you. I don't see how you're entitled to go and kick this guy in the back of the leg.
No, I know.
As part of it.
But that's not what they look at anyway.
No, I know,
So
but that's what they
was-
should.
yeah.
But that's what they should look at.
I know.
Like
But-
that's nasty. You can make the same point. Just kick the ball off him, and then you'll get your free kick, right? You don't need to actually go and kick him as well. I don't know. That just doesn't sit well.
David Datro Fofana's loan to AEK Athens seemed all set from Chelsea, but now it looks like he's staying in London.
Yeah, at least for another
6
until
months?
January.
Yeah.
I assume transfer windows are open somewhere in the world, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So maybe they can still do this. It would have been a loan with a 20 million euro option to buy. This is the downside of Chelsea's business model because he's gonna, he doesn't make a lot of money, but they did pay a transfer fee for him, and It's an unamortized amount on their books, and it's gonna weigh. And if he doesn't play, nobody's gonna see what he can actually do. I assume he can maybe play in the League Cup. He's obviously not in the Premier League squad.
No, I don't even think he has a number right now. Really,
he didn't show up on the Chelsea website today, so I have no idea. How sad and how bad are you going to feel for a millionaire footballer? Only so much, but this is the fallout. These are the side effects.
Yeah.
The PGMOL has launched a 3-year program for ex-pros who want to become referees. Jules, where do you stand on this notion that ex-pros would make great refs? And in particular, every time there's an incident, there's always one ex-pro in the road that's like, well, unless you played football at the highest level, you don't understand.
Which is BS as well. I think completely. Some ex-pros might become very good ref. We have one in France, Gaël Angoula, who was a decent defender in Ligue 1, has become a really, really good referee in Ligue 1 now after going through the lower leagues, and rightly so. But it's not because you've played football that automatically you're going to make a great ref. You need different qualities and everything. So I'm glad for this. This is good, and maybe out of this 3-year program, 1 or 2 are going to make it and be decent or good. I hope for them, but a lot of others are not going to make it either.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things here. So first of all, what I like about this is there's 12 people in this program. They're all former lower league professionals. They're getting a scholarship to go and do this course. And I think this is really important, because if you're going to go and essentially do this full immersion and try to kind of jump the queue. Howard Webb, who was a very good referee and got to the top and refereed a World Cup final, it took him 14 years to get to the Premier League. So these guys are going to do it. It's not like in 3 years. I think in 3 years, if the best ones are going to get to be in the Football League, and then maybe a couple of years.
Go up the ladder.
You're only going to go do this if you don't have a lot of money. I don't see a former Premier League footballer, suddenly deciding that, I want to go and devote my life to officiating. So it's important that you go and get this.
Yeah.
Equally, I agree with you. Referees, they've all played football. Everybody's played football to some level, to some degree. It's not like these guys were into Dungeons and Dragons or Roblox or whatever. I know some of them look that way, but they all have an understanding of the game.
Yeah.
So, the value add that the top ex-pros bring is in terms of the environment, the pressure, playing in front of 80,000 people, maybe some technical points. It's certainly not their opinion on refereeing and what they think constitutes a foul and what does not.
That's true. The Chinese Football Association has banned 38 players and 5 club officials for match fixing, Gab.
Yeah, this caps a 2-year investigation. It's hard because when you're talking about match fixing, illegal activities, if you know people from the betting world, and this is relevant to football because we see so many betting sponsors, and we're also seeing clubs moving away, and FA saying like, well, we're actually moving away from some of these betting sponsors, especially some of the more dubious ones. For this reason, people who are professional gamblers, sometimes they look at games and they look at the price of a game and they say, and look at the way the line moves, and they say, I'm not going near that. This game is most likely fixed.
Yeah.
Right? And these guys are betting with their own money, so I tend to trust what they say. In China, they were obviously able to break this ring. I hope it doesn't extend far beyond that. It sends a signal. I also hope these guys got due process and a fair trial and whatever. I may surprise you, but I do not read Mandarin, so I was unable to review the documents. This time last year, Etienne Capoue was starting for Villarreal in La Liga. And now he's playing competitive basketball?
That's right. He played last weekend, in the 4th division in Spain. He still lives in Spain. He's 36 years old. He's 1.89 meters, so I don't know how many feet and inches that is.
I know. He's like 6'2".
Okay.
He's going to be an off guard or two guard.
He's always been a basketball player, even when he was younger in Toulouse. Always loved basketball, always loved the NBA. Has always played, and now that he's still a free agent, he's got no club. He's 36 years old, so he's got a lot of time on his hands. Joined his local club, who is in 4th division. So I don't expect them to be professional players, but they look good on the video. It looks like a good team. 4th division in Spain, basketball is really, really big. So I still expect the 4th division in Spanish basketball to be of a really decent level. So good for him.
What is he playing when you saw the video? I mean, he's playing as a guard. I assume
yeah, as a guard. Yeah, but he's got. I mean, it looks legit, completely legit.
All right,
So yeah,
there you go.
well done, Etienne. Really well.
I wonder. I'm assuming he hasn't gone to university. Do you think he'd still have NCAA eligibility left? Could he go and Could he get recruited? I guess
Imagine at
and play
36.
D1 or D2
I
basketball.
would love that. I think he's still hoping to find a club, to be fair, to continue his career. England's under 21 team beat Austria on Monday night. But Gab, that has been somehow overshadowed by a flag.
Yeah, so this is kind of a sweet story. So the game was played at Luton's ground, Kenilworth Road, and at every home Luton game at Kenilworth Road, there's a flag up that says Luton Town, established 1885, betrayed by the Football Association in 2008. This refers to when Luton were, for violating sort of financial rules, they were given they were deducted 30 points. And I think that was on their way when they slipped out of the Football League altogether. Now, obviously, it was a seminal moment in the club's history, and they felt that they were betrayed at the time by the 30-point deduction. Again, it's the heaviest punishment ever handed out. And so they put this up when the club agrees to putting it up. And the FA said, all right, you got to take it down. And the clubs explained their position.
Yeah.
And the FA, apparently, according to the club, said, no, it can stay up. And then on the day of the game, somebody from the FA said, no, you must take it down. And if this is the case, I hope there's an investigation. I think you have to respect the clubs, right?
Yeah.
If this is how they feel about, they accepted the punishment, but they still feel betrayed. They're allowed to do this, and whatever job's worth at the FA, if this is indeed what happened, who said no, we can't have a banner up that makes us look bad at this England under 21 game, which the whole world will be paying attention to. They might just see this flag in the corner. It's a bad look. If you agree to it, you agree to it. Simple as.
Yeah.